What is rehab or rehabilitation? My name is Fred Begaris, a board-certified sports and spine medicine physician in Virginia Beach, Virginia. After 10 years of practice, I still find musculoskeletal medicine both fascinating and challenging. This podcast is about the lingering thoughts and questions I've had after residency and fellowship. My hope is to spark discussion, challenge dogma, and share my experiences in musculoskeletal medicine. Welcome to the Talking Rehab podcast. I recall several years ago an interaction I had with a HVAC specialist. I had my second child, and he was probably less than 4 months old. It was the dead of summer, and my in-laws flew in from Virginia, stayed with us. So there was a total of, essentially 6 of us in the house, and the AC went completely out, and it was hot. It was like 90 plus degrees. It was hot, and I had a newborn, and my wife was still recovering. So I called an HVAC person to come in and get it fixed. And, whenever you're in that position, nothing ever seems to really move fast enough, right? So I hired the person. They got in the parts. Eventually, they installed the unit, and basically the unit was quote unquote working, but it was still extremely hot in the house. And essentially the person said, well, I was obviously upset. I was like, well, it's still pretty hot in the house. It's better, but it's hot. It's still hot upstairs. And, I understand that sometimes people, when you don't deliver on the service that you promise, come up with excuses. But this guy looked me dead in the eye and said, well, technically you hired me to replace the old unit and install the new one. And I was like looking at him like he was crazy, and I was like, so should I have called and asked if you can make my place cold? Essentially he was just, I know what he was doing. He was basically just trying to cover up his mistake, and he had some sort of solution for the problem, but of course it was going to cost me extra. And at the heart of the problem, I was like, I have a hot house. The HVAC unit was not working. Therefore, fix the HVAC unit, replace the HVAC unit, and make my house cold. But this person was just fairly adamant about well, that's not what you hired me for. And long story short, I ended up hiring a new person. I was able to get it fixed. They explained the problem that the previous person did, and all was good from that standpoint. But that was a pretty not only frustrating experience for me as a consumer, but this was an issue that happened 7 to 8 years ago, and I still remember how frustrated I felt in that particular moment. As a more seasoned clinician now, I actually wonder if this is what we're doing to our own patients. Are we essentially just delivering not even really a service, but it's like, are we really falling short of their expectations in that respect? We're just doing something that we know how to do, but we're not exactly making their house cold. That it's not necessarily, I guess I'm not trying to assign any blame, but coming out of medical training or any type of training, we are taught that treatments work and they help people, but in reality, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And that's a really very convenient place for physicians or clinicians to land, because obviously they don't feel the direct effects of that outcome. But as a patient, I could see them being exactly like me, where I was like, my house is hot. Can you make it unhot? Do whatever you need to do. And because in that instance, and looking back, I was like, I was pissed. I was really, really upset. And so I can only imagine, people having pain problems or having movement problems, going from person to person and everybody trying something, but not exactly meeting their expectation. I really try to hear what people, hear people's problems and hear exactly what it is that they want out of the treatment. And it makes me question, do physicians really do the same thing? I have, I've established my own practice because essentially I have a commitment to making people move better. And a lot of my clientele tend to see a lot of specialists. They've seen surgeons, non-surgical specialists, and they get a part fixed, they get a part replaced, and they're still not able to do what they need to do. Meaning like someone gets their knee replaced after about a year, they're still not able to do what they need to do. They go to their surgeon and say, well, the joint replacement looks fine. So, you know, essentially that's all I can do for you. And whenever I hear that's, I see those kind of patients, I see that same frustration that I had way back in the day, where, maybe these patients are looking at these physicians and say, did you think all I wanted was for you to replace the part versus I wanted you to help me hit my movement goals? And that is how I have now organized my treatment plans and how I talk to patients, is because do I do injections? Do I, do testing and this and that? But ultimately, everything is designed to hit someone's movement goals. I'm not anti-surgery. I'm not anti-injection. Those are all tools. But again, kind of the North Star is their movement. And it's a little bit of a point of frustration, and sometimes, bewilderment that, physicians don't really look at it this way. It's like, obviously people don't want just their blood pressure to be, the numbers to be better. They actually are trying to get healthy. Maybe not. Maybe some people just assume that the numbers look better, that they will be healthy. But, I guess everyone's going to find a physician or a person to help guide their health, but I think that I'm hoping that people listening to this podcast are kind of some of the younger clinicians, because I think that's been lost in medicine now. There's a lot of problems in healthcare, a lot of problems in medicine, but one of the big things is that I think we've lost sight on the actual goal. And we often will chalk it up to like, well, I have so many patients, or, we have a million excuses as to why we have not, refocused on that particular goal. But, part of the, why I got into this was actually to help people move better. And I don't mean just better in a month or 3 months. I mean lifelong. That's really the main goal, is to keep people moving better, keep their pain controlled, if not eradicated. But overall, a lot of our treatment as physicians is fairly short, kind of short-sighted. I really wish that we started refocusing, taking a step back from the painting and looking at the big picture overall. And sometimes a surgery helps, but it only really helps if they hit their goal. I think if it falls short of that goal, they're generally unhappy with whatever's been done. Same thing from a conservative treatment standpoint. If an injection falls short, if a therapy falls short, a medication, on and on and on. If it falls short, I'm not really comfortable saying like, well, this is what an injection can do. I never said that it was going to help you, walk down the aisle with your daughter. I think that's actually the bigger goal, and something that I'm trying to reach on a day-to-day basis is um, helping patients design or think about what is their actual movement goal. Pain is obviously a big, obvious limiting factor, but past the pain, are you physically able to hit your goals? I think that is a really very important aspect of what I do. Is I try to make that crystal clear so that if they hit their goals, they know that things have worked. If someone gets a joint replaced or a rotator cuff repaired and they're not able to hit their goal, they don't always look at that as a successful or valuable surgery. I mean, sure, it can help with pain, but if at the end of the day they're pain free, but they can't do what they want to do, I think you really have to question, the value of the treatment. Anyhow, I just wanted to, that this old story that I had of the really hot house when with my newborn and me getting annoyed with the HVAC person. It kind of I thought about that today and how it relates to patients. So anyhow, I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the Talking Rehab podcast. I hope that this podcast stimulates you to question your own practice and how you approach rehabilitation. I truly appreciate your time and attention. If you enjoyed listening, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. I wish you a movement-filled day. Take care.